Hey everyone, Mike here from Rock Manor Games. I'm on my laptop today because I don't really have anything in person to show you. So let me know if anything's wrong with the audio. I'm using my earbuds today, so hopefully it's a little clearer. And I have a few notes here since this is going to be more of a what have we been working on the past week type in development stream. We don't have a new prototype or anything to show you on the table like some of our last ones. Um, but hopefully people will still enjoy this, post questions about anything, opening the door now as people are entering, that if you have any questions or want to see anything in particular, we're going to sort of be scrolling through my laptop to see what we've been working on. The other thing worth noting is that someone this past week mentioned they wanted us to cover Set a Watch, the upcoming Set a Watch stuff, Forsaken Isles, Doomed Run in particular. So I'm not sure exactly what they want to see. So hopefully they can stop by and let us know. But I opened a couple files. We've been working on the rule book and stuff, so we can page through some of that stuff. Before we get started with anything, I actually thought it may be a little interesting to talk about the game design process in general and how at least I personally start designing a game. And the reason I thought it may be pertinent to talk about is because I was sort of struck by some inspiration in the past few weeks and uh, was thinking about these streams and had a couple ideas come to mind. And it's one of the questions I've been asked before when I've been interviewed or been on podcasts before, which is, you know, how do you get the idea for a game? Or whenever I talk to my friends who aren't necessarily board gamers or college friends who I talk about what I'm doing for the first time and they haven't been aware of what I've been up to. They're always like, well, how do you come up with a game? And the answer I usually give people is, how does a songwriter write a song? Like, how does it come to them? Like, it's sort of just it's this creative process, and it hits you when it hits you. I personally tend to get I tend to have a few ideas that start sort of churning in my brain that I'm thinking about, whether it's a game mechanism that I like from another game that I've played that I really like and how I would change it. These ideas are sort of always going through my head, just like I'm sure a musician is always thinking about pieces of songs and melodies and things like that are hitting them. Game design for me is a similar thing, um, but I never can act on that aspect of game design and development. I can never take the ideas, all these little pieces, and actually put pen to paper or put anything together, put a prototype together until something else comes along that works together. So for me, uh, that typically revolves around theme and a theme where I think these mechanisms that I'm thinking about meld well and make sense. Um, so while I don't have anything to show you about this game, and there may not nothing may ever come of this game, uh, I have sort of been struck by inspiration. I've had a lot of these mechanisms going on in my head, and I recently was talking to some friends about Cyberpunk and my love for Netrunner and all this kind of stuff. And the theme of Cyberpunk is something I think is lacking in other games out there. Uh, so I'm tentatively sort of starting to formulate the process of this. And once I had that theme, then all these mechanisms that had been bouncing around in my head started forming um, in a more real process. So I started taking notes on my phone. Well, just throughout the day, anytime anything struck me, I'd start writing down ideas for stats, things that would be interesting in a world like that. Started jotting down mechanisms that I thought could work with it, and started working on what type of game it would be. If I were to do a cyberpunk game, what type of game would I want to be? What I want it to be, and what's sort of lacking? What haven't I done yet? That would be interesting. So I'm tentatively in the very early process of sketching out what I'm calling a cyberpunk skirmish game, where you'd set up sort of dispute between different crews of cyberpunks with some police presence, skirmishing, from the corporations, and you'd be skirmishing one another, attacking each other. Um, your stats for each character of your crew would be recorded on cards. Um, and we'd want to keep it pretty streamlined so things could get moving. So I just wanted to put something on film to talk about how at least my game design process works. This is sort of how it starts. I have I start writing things down on note cards with where stats could be and write where the art would go, and I have different things that I jot down. Then I'll start putting things into the computer. Then I'll start working on some sort of prototype that you can play around with in real life. Um, Usually an Excel sheets in there as well with some sort of database of all the cards and ideas and brainstorms that I have in my phone and from everything else. So I'm excited about this new process. It's been a while since I've been struck and really worked on a new game from scratch. So it reminds me of how Maximum Apocalypse felt the first time when I had this Excel spreadsheet where I wrote down all my ideas. So we're going to be starting. I'm going to be spending some time on that. Hopefully, we'll see if anything comes of it. But let's switch over and talk about some of the other stuff I've been working on this week. And if you have any questions, please feel free to shout them out. I'm going to switch over. This game doesn't have a title yet, but I at least have some new stuff that came in this week for it. Uh, we're, we're, I call it my heist game, but it doesn't have a real title yet. I'm sure that's not going to be the title of the finished product. So if you have any suggestions for a 1980s style heist game, please let us know in the comments, and or shoot us an email or send us something on our Discord channel, and we can uh, you know add that to our list of potential names. So what happened this week as far as development goes is we've been working on artwork with the artist who did the casino case for Lawyer Up season 2, and he's really fast. So we actually had all this artwork start coming in, and we didn't even have graphic design really done yet. We had some basic stuff from me, like a card framework, like if you will, like a wireframe of what a card would be, with just the important icons and information that need to be on the card. But this week we actually got stuff back from the graphic designer and went back and forth and actually sort of settled on a card frame for our crew cards. So in this heist game, to give everyone sort of a quick overview of sort of what the game is, you have a board with a city grid on it. The the streets, a city, yeah, city grid with cross streets and parallel streets, just like New York City or anywhere else, Vegas. And in between these cities, there's squares where you can place different tiles representing the buildings of the city, like the bus station, the bank, the casino, the apartment complex, etc. So those can change from game to game as far as where the buildings sit in the city. They'll be able to be popped out and popped back in, so you don't have to play the same city map every time. But the basic idea is you're moving around the city, walking across streets and entering buildings. Each square has different doors on different sides of the building, and you can enter or exit in it with your pawns. And this game started as my sort of take on what a Euro game would be from coming from a designer like me who likes theme and player interaction. So it's this tableau building area control game effectively, where you're amassing a criminal gang that's controlling the city by having different people that belong to your gang across the city. Different heists pop up in each. There's 20 different buildings in the game, and a heist can be in each building. So you go through a deck that's sort of the timer of the game, and the heists pop up, and you have a chance to rob that place before that window of opportunity closes. And the way you build your tableau is you have these crew cards, which you play from your hand on your turn. Every turn you can play a card, move your pieces. You have a set number of movement that you can use to spend on your pieces. You can spend it all in one piece or move a couple different pieces. So you basically play a card, move your pieces, and then you may tap as many cards in your tableau as you want for their tapped effect or their exhausted effects. Um, so with that, I'll start showing you some of the cards that we have in this game. And some of the crew members you can add to your criminal crew, your heist gang, if you will, your heist crew. Um, I'm hopefully everyone can see my cursor. Maybe I should use the hand here so I can also grab easier as I point stuff out. So we have the actress here, and basically on a crew card, what you see is this money value in the upper left. Of course, in a heist game set in the 1980s, the most important thing is to have the most money and get away with the most cash. So you'll be amassing cash by robbing things, by controlling the city, by hiring crew members. And then once you amass enough cash, you've got to escape the city before the police catch you or find you or crack down on your crew. So every crew member has a cash value that they're worth. They cost supplies, and supplies are sort of this nebulous resource that that thanks hello and thanks for letting me know you can see the cursor. Supplies are one of the resources in the game. They're sort of this nebulous resource that crews have. Supplies, think of it as like tools, gadgets, money, cash, influence on the street that they can use to um, do heists and recruit crew members to their gang or to your hand. So this cost right here, this 4, is how much resources, how much supplies it costs to recruit the actress. And when you recruit a crew member, they go right to your hand. So to recruit the actress in the heist game, you need to have a piece, one of your pieces in your gang, in uh, the theater tile of the city, because that's where she's located. And then you need to pay this amount of supplies to recruit her right to your hand. And then the rest of these cards basically tell you the play ability, which is the actress can copy the play effect of a crew card in an opponent's tableau. So if another opponent has played a card, you leave the cards you played out in front of you. She can mimic the the other things, which is appropriate for the actress. She can sort of pretend to be the safecracker or pretend to be somebody else. And then her tap effect, this other icon, which is a folder currently, this may change, of course, as always, all this stuff's work in progress. This folder is Intel, the Intel resource, which is represented by a dice that you roll. Different values can do different things, but that's not really important to know now. So you can tap her or exhaust her to get this resource as well. And you can play her and tap her the same turn, or you can wait and tap as many cards as you want in the same turn. And that's sort of how you set up big combos, because by just playing one card, you're basically just getting one action. It's by setting up your tableau and then tapping a few cards that you're going to get bonus actions on a turn. So now that everyone knows sort of the basics of how a card works, um, I'll just scroll through these a little faster so you get a sense of it. I think we do have all 20 crew members that you sort of get from the market finished. So you have a getaway driver, of course. They're at the taxi stand. They, of course, help move your pieces and escape from any police patrolling the city. Um, police sort of randomly patrol the city, moving to different buildings. And if they run into any of your pieces, they arrest them, obviously. If you have, there's a wanted level, sort of like Grand Theft Auto. So you have to be a certain star level for them to actually care what you're doing and for them to care to arrest you. Otherwise, you can sort of be incognito and walk right past them. But in the most cases, you're going to be at a wanted level that's high enough where if you walked right by a police officer, they would arrest you. Whether or not they're actively pursuing you with the SWAT team and things like that sort of depends on what you've been robbing and what you've been doing in the game. So we have a getaway driver, we have a money launderer who goes to the casino and is good at exchanging resources. We have a bouncer. They can influence the movement of other players' pawns. They can also deploy. One of the resources is getting more meeples from the city. You know, people, citizens of the city that are recruited to your gang, and you recruit them as resources, but then you can actually deploy them to the city, and that's how you can get more people out, influencing what's going on in the city. So we have a Master of Disguise, Elvis Impersonator. He can swap with your Kingpin, who's your actual character, who's in the city. You can swap any of your meeples with them, so you can avoid letting them get arrested, which is nice, or move them around. You have a hacker. They're good at getting intel. They increase your heat level, which leads to your wanted level in stars, so they're more expensive. But getting intel is very valuable to set up heists. You obviously need a lot of intel to successfully complete a heist without getting arrested. Loan Shark, they can lend supplies to opponents for money, for victory points. Arms Dealer, this is an interesting one because you want to play them as your tableau grows, because when you play them, you get supplies for each crew in your tableau currently. So they can generate a lot of supplies for you potentially if you wait. There's a card in your hand that you play that is lay low, and that snaps. There's one card in your starting hand, crew card, that snaps everyone you've played back to your hand. Because obviously you run out of cards and you need to do other actions you've done before. As the game goes on, it sort of you slowly build your hand in your tableau. So this is one of those ones you want to play right before you snap your tableau back. Um, but they also can get you money for exhausting. They get you some victory points. The Card Shark gets you a little bit of money when you play them. They can also influence your intel, die results, and increase them by one, or increase or decrease them by one. Pusher, he you lose a crew member to gain victory points in this case, and you can also tap them to gain more supplies, but also gain some heat. The Recruiter, this guy's really good at hiring crew members. So the way to hire crew is you actually have to take a hire crew action, and you have a starting card that lets you hire crew called Recruit. But then if you get the Recruiter, that gives you another way to hire crew. You can play him to gain a bunch of resources that you may need. Then you can tap him to hire a crew. So you can potentially get 2 cards in one turn if you time your cards correctly with this one. We have a Mastermind. She's good at getting intel and reducing your heat. And then she lets you play an additional crew on your turn. So again, your turn flow is sort of play a card, move your characters, move your pieces however you want, and then tap any cards you want. Well, you could play a card, tap her to play an additional card, which could then give you the bonuses of playing the card and potentially give you another tap effect as well. So the Mastermind's a great way to combo into extra actions on your turn. The Forger, this is probably one of my favorite pieces of art, personally. She's the old lady who stays at the safe house. She's not worth any money when you buy her and acquire her, but she gets +1 for each crew in your tableau when you play her. So if you've played 8 cards before snapping those crew members back to your hand, you can get like mad victory points with her. She also is great at giving you a lot of supplies to potentially purchase new crew to help with that combo if you can get her early enough in the game. Cat Burglar gives you resources, and then you can tap them for the heist action. So again, that's one of the basic action cards that you start with, which is conduct a heist at the location you are. That's how you score a lot of victory points, by robbing the place you're at, using intel and resources you've acquired to have a successful heist. The Cat Burglar lets you potentially get multiple heists a turn by having that tap effect. Safecracker, again, they heist when you play them. So another way to rob things, they can crack open the safe. The Assassin, this reduces an opponent's gang members. You can sort of knock a few of them off or recruit them. One of the things I like about this piece of art is the silent pistol under his newspaper. Thanks for the comments. I'm glad everyone's liking the art and the look of the game so far. Hopefully, definitely going for like a 1980s crime caper type vibe. Want something distinct, but you know, I think if you get too modern, it can get too high tech with like how you can successfully rob a place or not. In the 1980s, technology and police work wasn't quite as good, and there was more corruption. So I think you can lean a little bit more into that from game mechanics and have a little bit more fun. We have pickpocket. They're recruited at the bus station. They take supplies, steal supplies from an opponent. They can also swap intel with an opponent. Then we have demolitions. She can be recruited at the police precinct, and she helps break people that get arrested out of prison without having to pay the fee. The cook gives you some supplies, and he can refresh an exhausted crew. So again, you can untap an exhausted crew and then potentially tap them again for this effect. Sniper removes an opponent's piece from the city. Of course, they gain some heat and wanted level for that, and they can be recruited at the gas station. So those are the crew cards for the heist game. Again, if you've got any ideas for a title, my favorite title that we brainstormed so far is Grand Larceny, since that is what you're doing. But I'm certainly open to other ideas for this particular game. Hopefully, I did a good job explaining what it's about so far without showing you on the table. I hope to get some of this. I'm basically at the point in our production where we have some graphic design done, but not all of it done. But it's close, so I just sort of want to wait to reprint my prototype. I do have a prototype lying around here, but it's like really ugly. It's like just a wireframe basically. So I'm sort of just waiting to make it look a little bit nicer. Then I can show it in a future stream if it's something that people are interested in. I mean, this game is further out, so maybe it's not nice to tease people about games that are really far in the future, but that's what this stream's sort of about. It's behind the scenes on what we worked on, and one of the things we worked on was I laid out all these cards. We got the template for this card type, so I took the time to sort of put them all together, so I could print them out potentially and update the prototype. Maybe update it for Gen Con and bring it with us to Gen Con. Okay, let's jump over to someone on our last stream or on YouTube or Facebook after the stream mentioned that they were interested in seeing more about Doomed Run. And I wasn't sure exactly what they meant. So if there's any questions about Doomed Run, this is our most recent Kickstarter that we crowdfunded. It is the culmination of the Set a Watch series and trilogy. It's a campaign mode that lets you play through 7 realms with a company of heroes that grows as you unlock new heroes. And if you survive all 7 realms, you can you stop the source of the Unhallowed, basically. So one of the things we did work on is we got some edits back for the rulebook. So we've gone through and we've done our first pass on the rulebook, but we are sending this back to the editors because they wanted to take one more look because they had there's obviously a lot more questions in this rulebook for the campaign, which is sort of a new mode, than the rulebook for Forsaken Isles, which was also part of this Kickstarter, which was just had a few new mechanics and otherwise was based on the previous Set a Watch rulebooks. And I think the rulebook is pretty spoiler free. The mythic items are not, so I can't scroll through all of them. But in Doomed Run, you get 7 adventure boards. You'll get the Knight and the Bard if you missed them in the deluxe version, and we've revealed the Royal, but there are 4 secret adventurers in here, which we do not spoil in the rulebook, but you do have them in here somewhere. We have 32 location cards, game break cards, ability cards, falcon cards, creature cards, summon cards, and hollowed cards. We have a camp board that's double-sided. You can actually have 2 different designs for the camp board, and it'll be separate. This is one of those things that people asked us all the time about in other Kickstarter comments and things like that about, hey, it's cool that the box is the board, but I would love to have the board separate just so I can play with it on a flat surface. I don't like it has these folds in it because it's part of the game board. So with a big box like Doomed Run, it made sense to give them a camp board, to have a camp board that works. We have 50 side quests. Um, I'll show you more about side quests since we're doing some computer surfing today. Warden cards. The Warden dividers act as a way to group all of your adventurers. You can put all their ability cards and the items they have equipped behind these dividers. Um, but they also have abilities on them for if you choose that character to be a warden. And then you've got divider cards, which just help organize everything released for the game. And so you can play the game quickly. So here are the three adventurers we revealed in this. Any unique mechanics they have are sort of highlighted here. So the queen has this falcon card, and you take the falcon card during setup. And once per round, the falcon may direct attack a creature in the line, sort of regardless of damage, any revealed creature. And any adventurer in the group, in the party, on watch may add one of their dice to supplement that attack. The Bard has this multi-talented camp action, which lets them equip abilities from other adventurers not currently in the party. Um, in Swords of the Coin, we laid out all the new heroes that we don't think he works with. And right now, the way we've written this in the rulebook is that some abilities from certain adventurers that have unique mechanics may not work with the Bard, like the Artificer or Trophy Hunter from Swords of the Coin. So we're leaving a little bit nebulous because we don't want to have it too restricted. But obviously, if there's an ability you think doesn't work well with the Bard, you shouldn't equip it with their multi-talented thing because some stuff doesn't work. Um, so there will be additional FAQs based on the Bard and these interactions. You can see we have a QR code here in the rulebook. And we're going to have additional resources and a web page set up for the secret adventures in the box, FAQs that come in, and everything else as people start playing the game. We want to make sure people can get all the answers that they need, but it's hard to anticipate all the answers and interactions with Doomed Run since it incorporates effectively 3 standalone games and 1 smaller expansion of cards with a variety of card interactions and new heroes, which are secret and sort of only play tested internally and not play tested publicly. Uh, we know that there's going to be some things we need to address, so we're going to have a living document where people can download FAQs and rules and additional helpful guides. You'll actually see in this rulebook some of the other things that people may need to download and use. There's some save sheets and stuff, so if you use up the ones in the rulebook, you'll have that as well. So the way Doomed Run works is you start with a party, you start with a company of adventurers. And if you're playing through it the first time, we recommend that you start with the Beastmaster, Cleric, Ranger, Rogue, Warrior, and Wizard from the original Set a Watch box. So they're sort of the classic adventurers. And the first time you play through Doomed Run, that is who you'll start with in your company. And then obviously from your company, you will create a party of 4 adventurers to actually play through. So to play through the games or the realm itself. One of the things the editors actually, why they want to review this rulebook is because we talked about a realm consisting of 3 separate games, meaning a short game of 4 rounds, 2 short games of 4 rounds, and then a longer game with a final location of 4 or more rounds. And they were like, using the term game is very confusing. You could be talking about the game itself. It's hard to let people know you're talking about that specific segment of the game. So we have since changed it to expedition. So a realm is made up of 3 expeditions. The first 2 expeditions are 4 rounds each, 4 locations each of being on watch. And then the third expedition is the last of that. But you can play through a realm in 1 sitting. When Todd and I were playing through the campaign, we typically could get through a full realm in about an hour and a half at, max, 2 hours max, really. The realms do get longer, so the first realm is shorter, and then the second realm's a little bit longer. They get longer by one location for each realm until you get to realm 7 when you have like a proper full game uh, at the end. But one of the first things you do is you one of the new things you do is when you set up a realm and you play an expedition is one of the first things you do is you draw 3 side quest cards and you pick one to attempt or add to your current playthrough or your current expedition, and you return one to the box to sort of be removed from your current run, and then you can return one other one back to the top of the deck because it's something you want maybe next round. But the thing that side quests do is they add setbacks or difficulties to the game you're playing. So, for example, if I attempted the Knight of Honor side quest here, the reward is that the knight joins my company. The knight from the deluxe edition of Set a Watch, great melee character, magic sword, defeats any creature in first position, a great character to add to your run. We have some flavor text here, but if I accept the side quest and if I go after the Knight of Honor, I have to add the top 3 cards of the creature deck to the horde for that realm. So as soon as I attempt this side quest, I have to do this setback in bold. Other setbacks are like to get the barbarian, I have to each adventure exhaust an ability. So we're going to start very damaged leading into it. If I go after the witch, each time a summon card is triggered, I gain an additional doom. I gain a doom. Whether it's a doom summoned or a different type of summon, I'll be gaining doom faster. And doom is a mechanic we introduced in Forsaken Isles, which summons more unhallowed creatures, which can result in failing. It's one of the lose conditions if you need to summon an unhallowed and you can't. And then the other type of rewards you can get, obviously adding new characters to your company gives you sort of extra lives and extra characters that can die as part of your quest, and it becomes easier to complete a run of Doomed Run. Um, but the other reward that you can have is mythic items. Um, and in this case, if I go after the multiplying arrow, which belongs to the ranger, you can see the character, the adventurer who it belongs to is in parentheses here. So you don't have to go looking up or figuring it out. The campfire reveal level is reduced if I go after the ranger's mythic item, which is this multiplying arrow. Or the healing staff, which that should say cleric. So we actually found a typo, which is good. The healing staff belongs to the cleric. But when you do this, you have to choose and exhaust a total of 3 abilities among adventurers that are currently in the party. So picking a side quest is very important, and you must select a side quest. I actually think of it. I'm a huge Halo video game fan. Side note, and the inspiration or my thinking with the side quest setbacks is actually like the skull modifiers in Halo, which is when you play Halo repeatedly and play it again and again and try to beat the campaign mode. There's all these skulls you can activate to make the game like harder or easier. So that's sort of the inspiration behind some of these setbacks. It also makes the choices in the campaign more meaningful because you're always picking something that you won't get that run. You're always discarding one of these quests and one of these unlocks to the box, not getting it that run. Um, so I think it gives the choices of what you're unlocking meaningful choices as well, and which path you want to unlock. Do you want to soup up your 6 starting characters with their mythic items? Or do you want to unlock additional characters that may bail you out if you start running out of heroes? And I think that tension and that of choice is very interesting. Um, in the Doomed Run campaign. So that's that. We haven't had a lot of questions here, I'm sure. I don't think this has been as highly. I don't think we have the same viewership we have the past few weeks, probably because everyone's at Origins, which is one of the big board game conventions that we're skipping this year in favor of doing more Gen Con. later in August. But you know, I like we always have video on demand, so hopefully people are finding some of the stuff we cover in this interesting. Uh, Otherwise, setup after you pick your side quest for a realm is pretty much the same. You do prepare a creature deck based on a realm list. Um, we have a setup diagram, not much different than a normal game of Set a Watch. Of course, we have a spot on the new board for your current side quest, and we have a spot for your warden if you have a warden, which is something you get in future realms. So in realm 1, you don't have a warden, um, but in in after the first realm, you pick a warden, and then they apply to each realm after that, and they give you a boost. Will we be at PAX Unplugged? Yes, of course. We're always at PAX Unplugged. It's in Philadelphia. We're located about 20 minutes south of Philadelphia in Delaware. And Todd, the designer of Set a Watch, is actually in Westchester, Pennsylvania, which is about 30 minutes from Philadelphia as well. So we always go to PAX Unplugged. We'll be there for sure. We'll be in booths demoing stuff. We almost always do a media day where we rent out a room in the hotel and have a bunch of streamers and content creators come by and check out stuff we're working on. Sort of get all the prototypes you've seen in previous in development streams. That's where we let people actually play those prototypes and check them out and videotape them and post them to their channel. You prepare the Unhallowed deck. The Unhallowed deck actually grows um, in the in Doomed Run as you play through the run. So in a typical game of Set a Watch, you have 8 Unhallowed, and as they're summoned, if that deck runs out, you lose. But each realm, as you move through, you unlock 8 new Unhallowed and add them to the top of your Unhallowed deck. So the better you do in not summoning Unhallows from realm to realm, uh, the more buffer you'll have in that lose condition, which is nice because in the final realm, when you're playing like 16 rounds of Set a Watch, if you only have 8 Unhallowed, like you will lose. So you need to make sure you're using some of the new camp actions to place Unhallowed back in the deck, or the seal action and things like that. Um, the other thing you get to do when you set up a realm in Doomed Run is you set up the map deck. You get all the locations for the whole realm, and you put them in a stack with the game break cards in between. Um, and the game break cards are when you can take a break from your expedition and run through a save system, or just reset it for the next and continue playing through to the next location. Local to both Wilmington and Westchester. Yes, we are. Do we ever do live events around our area? We haven't invited. Do we ever do live events in our area? We have done smaller conventions in the area. So we've gone up to the Poconos. There's like a Middle Eastern Pennsylvania convention that's small that we've gone to and had a little booth there and run some events there. Um, we've never run our own live event, like a Rock Manor Games event. I would if it wasn't a bunch of work and we had enough people who are interested in coming, but we haven't yet. But we do go to small cons in the area sometimes. For example, we'll be going to at the end of July. There's a Harrisburg Games convention, which Harrisburg's the capital of Pennsylvania. It's only about an hour and a half away from us. And Todd and I are both going to have a table there. We'll be demoing stuff. It's like our pre-Gen Con playtesting session. So we're going to bring some games we're working on, playtest there, bring a couple games to give away for that. I'm sure it's a small convention, but you know it's close to us, so it's easy to do, and we like supporting people who are interested in the hobby, big and small. So we are thinking about going towards that. I'm going to skip through the rest of this setup stuff. Unused location deck. There's a couple rules about changing these things just so it's easier to play through multiple games, expeditions of as you're going through the run. Um, but it's not a drastically different game. The big difference are as actually here on this page with sort of bullet points, which is you do not reset Doom, coins, equipped items, ability cards, rest tokens, or the Horde at the end of each expedition. So when you hit a game break card, it's not a new game. Like how well you did does matter, and your firewood stays the same and things like that. Um, and once every adventure rests twice, you reset all the rest tokens so people can rest again. And if at the end of an expedition, all the ability cards of an adventure are exhausted, that adventure is dead and removed permanently from the game. So in a normal game of Set a Watch, you can exhaust cards like crazy to get through the end. And as long as one card is face up, that character is alive. That's not true anymore. We have these checks at the end of each expedition, and if a character is fully exhausted, they are dead. Here's what the game break card tells you to do. Here's what happens if you lose an expedition. Here's what happens. But here's how saving the game works. There's two places you can save. You can save after an expedition, and you basically go through everything on the game break card and write stuff down on this save sheet. We have an example of what the save sheet looks like here. But in this example, Mike and uh, Mike, that's me. Um, Todd and I were playing. You can see we wrote the players down in each spot. There's always 4 people in a party. The cleric, wizard, warrior, and beastmaster were used. We played Realm 1, Game 1. Here's the date. Here's the Doom level. Here's how much firewood we ended with. Here's how much coin we ended with. And then here's the abilities we had equipped. Here's our equipped abilities. Here's how many times we rested, sort of grayed out in pencil. And then if any abilities were exhausted, like polymorph, we circled the exhaust symbol. And if we unlocked the mythic item, which we did for the cleric, you can check that off here. So the cleric has their mythic item. And then the warrior has bought the Helm of Prophecy, and they've exhausted it, and the Beastmaster has the Strength Potion. So if you have to write down a lot more stuff if you're saving in between expeditions in Doomed Run instead of Watch. It's much easier to save between realms, where basically the only thing you're writing down is let's go to that. The only thing you're writing down is the date, who played, which adventurers you used, and then who your warden is, and you can write down the items that you're storing with your warden as well. That's all that you really need to write down when you're saving in between realms. There's some cards and decks you can prepare and store back in the box behind dividers, um, which takes a little bit of work, but saving between realms is very easy. You just have to write this stuff down. So you can see here, and then if someone dies, you can cross them off. So you can see I crossed the ranger off in this example because it's like they died the second realm. But you don't even need to cross them off here because there's a divider in the box that tells you uh, dead adventurers, and you can put their warden card and all their ability cards behind it. But let's get into sort of how Doomed Run works. You start in the Kingdom of Lustrum. You can see every realm has a name and some flavor text that you can delve into some of the lore of the game. And then each realm tells you your starting Doom, which is here, which realm you're in, and the creature deck. And we've organized the creature deck you need to build, and the Unhallowed you need to build, and the map deck. And it tells you which game uh, or which product those cards are in. So for the creature deck for Realm 1, you need to get the Bandits, Eagle, and Goblins from Set a Watch. You need the Coffin Rat Storm from Swords of the Coin. And then in Doomed Run, we have a Townsfolk deck, which is all marked with a symbol. And you can grab all those cards. Torch Wielding Mob, Topiary Beast, Supplicant, Sewer Ghoul, all these other creatures all get shuffled together to make your creature deck. Your Unhallowed come from Set a Watch, Swords of the Coin, Outriders, and Forsaken Isles. And your map deck comes from Set a Watch, Swords of the Coin, and Doomed Run. So you would shuffle these up. Your final location is the Forbidden Tower. So you have to set that as your last location, but otherwise you shuffle up and arrange these cards randomly in a specific order with game break cards in between them. I won't go to Realm 7, but then you go to the Domains of Man, the Vast Forests of Old, but I don't want to spoil too much there. And I think we're hitting that 30, 45 minute mark anyway, which is where I like to stop these streams anyways. Thanks so much for the questions. It sounds like at least one of the people watching is pretty local to the Philadelphia area. So I don't know, maybe we'll have to throw a Rock Manor Games convention plan something locally here. To finish this out, just hopefully I've met this person's request about covering Doomed Run. I'll go through some of the mythic items for the first few adventures. We have the multiplying arrow. You exhaust it, defeat uh, each revealed creature is of equal or lesser value of a creature you just defeated with a direct attack. So you defeat a creature with a direct attack, say they are an 8, then you can exhaust this card to defeat any revealed creature who's of equal or lesser value to the creature you just beat, which is sweet. You can potentially get a board wipe if you set it up correctly, or at least of revealed creatures. The Cleric Healing Staff is very powerful because it allows you to refresh an exhausted ability. It gives you an active heal during the watch phase. Mythic items have a cost because if you want to play just a normal version of Set a Watch without um, if you want to play a normal game of Set a Watch with some of the components from Doomed Run, you can use mythic items and shuffle the 4 mythic items belonging to the 4 characters you have in your party, and they'll come up in the item deck, and you can purchase them for a lot of money, but they're powerful items, so you can save up and purchase them from the merchant if you want. The Rogue Mythic lets you remove a revealed creature from the game, and then pick a creature not in the game and add it to the graveyard. So this is really useful in later realms that are really difficult with big creatures like dragons. And you can use Sands of the Past to remove a dragon from the creature deck for the rest of the realm and replace it with an easier creature like an eagle or a forest creature or something, or a creature with just lower health. Teleportation Wand, return the 2 revealed creatures to the top of the creature deck. You can choose the order. So it's like sort of like Set Snares, but more powerful. You get 2 creatures. Beastmaster Mythic lets you do 2x damage to a revealed creature, where X is your forest creature's health, one of your tamed forest creature's health. So if you have a tamed bear that has a health of 5, that's 10 damage potentially. And this is an activate effect, so you can spend a die to activate it. The Warrior Mythic defeats the creature in first and third position in line immediately. And the next is the Cauldron of Prophecy for the Witch. But I think that's enough. I don't want to spoil anything. One other thing I do want to do is I was thinking about, I know it's hard to see this, run variants. So Doomed Run is, and I'm going to close with this, Doomed Run is designed to be played multiple times. It's meant to be something you can run over and over again. It's a campaign with 7 realms, which equate to about 21 games or expeditions, as we call them, of varying lengths of between 30 to 60 minutes. But there are different ways you can play through the run once you've played through it the first time and unlocked everything and beaten it. You can play a new run plus, which takes into account the run you just completed, makes the game more difficult by escalating your summon cards, and lets you keep the company of heroes you ended the game with, but all the quests that you put back in the box that you didn't get to unlock, you get a chance to unlock them again on a second run through. So this is sort of a second run that you can add on to a first run to see if you can make it through 2 runs back to back with some new game plus elements. Random Run is the way you can just play the game really easily, like pick up and play Doomed Run, which is you randomly pick a starting company of 6 adventurers, making sure you take out their side quests and unlock them from the side quest deck, and then you randomize the side quest deck and play through the game that way. And that's a really easy way to play the game once you've unlocked it, once you've played through it the first time. And the curated run is your first playthrough, where we've actually labeled all of the quest cards with a realm number, R1, and then a card number, so that you can organize all of the side quests into the order that they're unlocked, because the Doomed Run does have 7 realm envelopes that you'll open as you go to each new realm with new equipment and not new equipment, but it'll unlock new it'll unlock not new equipment, but you'll open up the envelope and it'll have new cards in it. So some of the new creature cards that you'll need to build creature decks, some of the new locations that are in Doomed Run that are for a specific realm will be in that realm's envelope. And you'll open them as you play through. And then if you want to play through sort of in that curated manner again, we have the curated run option for that. So I think that does it for the in development stream of this week. Uh, not as fun playing with stuff on the table as previous weeks, but we'll put this video up on YouTube, of course. People can watch it at later dates. Hopefully we answered questions and things that have been asked of us from future streams, covered Doomed Run, showing some of the stuff we've worked on. If you have any questions, make sure you attend the next stream. If it's something you guys like, we'd love to hear the support in the chat and have great questions while we're streaming. Hope everyone who missed out this week, it's because they're at Origins having fun playing games in person. I'm actually headed on vacation for the next couple weeks before we hit Harrisburg Game Festival the end of July, leading up into Gen Con. But if people are interested, I am open to doing more of these in development streams when we get back, leading up to Gen Con. So if you're interested in that, please drop by our Discord channel, pop in, give us some ideas for um, questions and things you want to see us cover in these streams, any games you want to see or any details you want us to drill down into, any games you want us to play live on stream as well. We're happy to do that, look into that. Anything basically that I can easily do on a Friday afternoon by myself. That's sort of the time I've set aside to do something interactive with the community. Please let us know in our Discord channel or commenting on this video or stream wherever you've watched it. Thanks so much for watching,